Morning. Oh, ihr könnt auch aufstehen. You can also. I have a warm-upper with me, Johann Strauss. That's his real name. Thank you so much. We already acquainted each other at breakfast. Yes, it's his real name. Hi, I'm Kathleen Schröter. I'm your MC. Yesterday, someone told me they don't know what an MC is. What is an MC? Thank you so much, Master of Ceremony. But I'm also the CTO of this room today, the Chief Time Officer. So I'm also sometimes then the party pooper, which means when the speaker is too late and they're running out of time, and I don't want to say we're running out of time, then I come on stage and try to be gentle and help them to finish their sentence. Although they are all really accomplished speakers, that's why they are here. So we want to hear what they want to help us to understand. But unfortunately, we have a lot of speakers today, so we have to be a bit, they told me I have to be the timekeeper here. My background is in science communication. I worked a long time in the Fraunhofer Association, so I know a bit of AI, and virtual reality and augmented reality and all these things. So I can also ask a couple of questions, but only if our speakers stick to the time. And we have Fabienne here in our room who is helping also in the room to get your microphone when you have a question at the end. Do you need anything else? You have seen the program, you know where the restrooms are, anything that is catering, please ask Fabienne or someone in the room. And without any further ado, I don't want to take too much time from our first speaker. So let me introduce her. For those of you who don't know her, you must be new in AI. Please join me in welcoming to the stage and thus opening our stage, Professor Dr. Feiyu Xu. She is a distinguished leader in AI research and industry, with a wealth of experience spanning from academia to the boardrooms of major technology companies. Well, some of this is, for instance, she was the senior vice president of SAP SE, where she defined and orchestrated the company's global AI strategy. And she was a vice president and head of the AI lab at Lenovo in Beijing. In this session, she told me this morning, she will also be accompanied by a long-term collaborator, Patrick Bunk, who is working with her since over a decade. And his passion is in, seeing technology possibilities and transferring that into real-world applications for enterprises, but also for the common people. So we see in the session how they explore how ecosystem collaborates, strategy governance, and real-world applications are shaping the future of the industry of industrial AI, and prepare for actionable insights from one of Europe's foremost AI experts. The stage is yours, Feiyu Xu.
Good morning. Thank you, Catherine. We really have a lot of content for this presentation. I really want to have this content as a working session with you together. At first, I want to share with you the most recent releases and development in generative AI. For example, I think you know Llama 4. I think Llama 4 is going to the right direction for the industry adaptation and applications. Why? For example, the Llama Scout can run on one H100 GPU, even on devices. And with the large content, almost to 10 million tokens, it means, because I work with many companies together, we always worry how can we do long-term and short-term demand forecast predictions with open source, open weight, and also a big context, 10 million. You can combine the long-term forecast with short-term forecast with real-world data. This is really the right direction. And the second, and so also for industries, the generative AI in combination with physical world, with robotics, this is really important. I'm really looking forward the physical world with generative AI in the near future. And also, of course, who cannot talk about the generative AI? And Patrick will show you very cool applications demos. And now let's start to work together. I know in the past 2 years, many companies start to define AI use cases. And some companies have even more than 800 use cases. Some company has, I have 200 use cases. But the company and the board is not ready to invest 100 million. And therefore, how can we encourage the bottom-up innovation and the use cases? On the other hand, also know this all contribute to the right direction of the company. Therefore, I think it's right time now to define the AI North Star for every company. Do you have an AI North Star for your company? Let's verify later. And then without digitalization, without a data strategy, AI is only a goodwill, good intention, right? Therefore, it's very important to find the answers together. Do we have a comprehensive catalog or the inventory of all the data we own, we produce, and we can access, and we allow to access, we need to access, right? This kind of questions urgently need to be answered. Otherwise, we cannot be successful. And what is the current state of the data ecosystem in our industry? Can we work together, right? If you talk about supply chain demand forecast, without ecosystem, you cannot do it. And the AI stack, the IT team does not really know how many stacks we need, and also the industry standard in the business unit. How many AI stacks do you think you need in your company? For a company like Boeing, how many stacks do you think you need? 2 or 3? At least, I think at least 3. One, I will continue later. And also, since the AI experts are limited, the number of AI experts are limited, they are expensive, right? And the use case, so many use cases you can implement in your companies. How can you organize the teams? How can you upskill your teams? And how can you attract the talents, right? This, therefore, how you organize your central AI hub and in combination with the business unit. And I want to also get your answers, your suggestions. Furthermore, collaboration with regulators. We always complain about EU AI Act and also the German government. However, I think as industry, as companies, and we should proactively work with the regulator, because many of them don't know how to modify their regulations for industry standard. For example, if you want to define how you produce an airplane, in particular also airplanes which are mission critical for helicopter, and the manufacturing process have to be regulated. If we integrate visual inspection into the regulation, sometimes the regulator, they are scared, say, oh, if we integrate visual inspection into the manufacturing process, the humans, they will be lazy. Perhaps the quality will reduce, right? But they don't know how to do the regulation. Therefore, we as AI experts, if we work with companies or in the companies, we have to proactively work with the regulator in order to make the innovation happen. And also thought leadership. Of course, we cannot be thought leader in every components in the ecosystem, right? But we should think, how can we be thought leader in our industry with AI? And I hope I can find the answers with you together. Perhaps not today, but I think these questions are very relevant in order to make our companies successful. And let's start with AI North Star. What do you think about a car company? I will not, let's go back. Perhaps, what can be the North Star for a car company like a BMW, Daimler, NIO? What are the major components of a car company? You mentioned you have a North Star already. Perhaps you can think about for BMW. right answer. I want to be more precise. For the North Star of car industry, I think at least two components. One is autonomous driving. AI is the key technology to autonomous driving. But the autonomous driving is not the only technology, not computer vision, not radar and lidar technology. This is also about ecosystem. Do we have the right infrastructure? Do we have the right legal framework? How can we share the data among the ecosystem, right? Therefore, autonomous driving is not only limited to technologies, right? And second one, as you mentioned, right? Embed AI into the manufacturing processes and embedded AI in the business processes. And with this North Star, you can then make decisions of your roadmaps, milestones, and also investment. And among these 800 use cases, perhaps you can choose the top 10. And also monitor the progress. And what can be the North Star for a company like Boeing? Similar, right? Yeah, like AI pilot, AI co-pilot, right? There's, I think, a lot of automation, intelligence in the cockpit in airplane already. But safe landing is very important, and the sustainable airplane is very important. AI can really contribute a lot, right? Because the human pilot, they cannot forecast if there's bad weather ahead, right? We know a lot of accidents, and in particular with helicopters, right? In the news this year. And also for manufacturing an airplane, you have Airbus A320 and A350. There are so many components, so many supplies. How can make it successful? Do you think what the joint technology needed for the manufacturing company in order to make the manufacturing successful? Digital twin and the AI together. Right? Yeah. Now, last week I met Zurich airport, the board, and what can be the North Star for airport, like Berlin airport? You as passenger, right? The passenger experience. I think often, in particular in Berlin, people were not happy when they try to land or when they want to leave the airport and they will try to find the suitcase, right? Passenger experience, how can make AI contribute to the, and also airport is so complex, right? The safety, security, customer services, all these kind of things. Therefore, also a North Star for airport is needed with AI. And now let's talk about data. I have 3 questions. Do we have a comprehensive catalog or inventory of the data we own, produce, can access, and need to access? It took me, I have my dear SAP colleagues, friends here. It took me many months in order to define the legal framework for the customer data access. It was a big effort, but it's worthy. You can be successful. Don't use GDPR as your excuse. And of course, with generative AI, you can improve your data generation and data quality, and even generate synthetic data, right? And also, as mentioned, how can we industries, companies work together for our ecosystem, sharing the data, and take advantages of the sharing. And if we look at the industry and business data, it's very complex. It's not simple like only text and images, right? Perception data. You have tree data structure for the business process, production processes. You have a lot of transaction data. Patrick will mention how difficult to deal with transaction data. You have billions and data. How can you do it? Put it into all the large language model. How can you do it in an intelligent way? And often the transaction data does not have enough semantics in it, right? And also, if you are in the chemical industry, you have chemical formulations. If you are in the manufacturing company, you have the geometric data, physical data. How can you do it, integrate it, this kind of knowledge data into the generative AI context, make it successful? Now, I want to share with you, I'm very proud of the company Zücker. Philip is here in the audience. And I am in the board of Zücker. Zücker is an innovation company help the companies in the beginning, not in the beginning of their intelligent transformation journey, define the AI strategy and also implement use cases. For example, there's one very cool use cases. Since I was global head of AI at SAP, when I give talk, people always say, how can we deal with the master data? And Tüke has a solution. How can use generative AI in order to repair the data, check the consistency, and also enrich the data and make the data searchable. Therefore, you see it's so complex, AI make companies successful, right? And also, I talk with a small real estate company. I check how challenging the data, right? In order to make your business successful for a small real estate company, if you want to be intelligent, you need data about the market, about properties, about the rental. You need to know the geographical development, social development in your city and your country, and also regulations, right? Even a small company, therefore data is so important. And this is, I have met so many companies in the last 1 year. I have learned so much, right? Therefore, I also want to learn from you. This is, I discussed with Patrick, right? That the construction companies, they don't have enough data for the, they don't do the right documentation of their real-world construction, right? But with drone, with AI, it's also with sensor, with camera, it will be very easy. How much time do we have left? 1 minute, okay. 10 minutes, oh, I can work with you even longer. I have still 5 minutes, right? Okay, good. Just let me tell me to stop. Now let's talk about the AI stack. This is from F5. This is standard AI stack. Every company, if you want to build AI applications, because we are on the end of the value chain, this AI stack is needed, right? Starting from the infrastructure, I also put companies which support this AI stack. I think the hyperscaler control the AI stack. Of course, if you have Microsoft Azure, you can cover really infrastructure, data processing, also AI foundation model, AI model like framework. Many of them, PyTorch, they are also open source, right? However, each company, you have to control the application services. Either you work with the third parties, make your deployment and delivery and the continuous improvement in a safe and secure way. This part you cannot hand over to other people. Don't be too lazy. And I think the hyperscaler cannot take over this part. And the applications you have to do yourself or ask companies like Tüke in order to support you. And in Europe, we have very limited infrastructure provider. Companies like GCO provide infrastructure and also the lower stacks. Therefore, I want to also introduce, I don't know whether you know the company GCO. Yeah, GCO provide, because for many companies, as I mentioned, right, you need perhaps AI stack for cloud applications, for on-premise, and also for on your machine. Like if you have a gas turbine, have windmill, right? I'm in the board of Siemens Energy. Big machine, I'm so excited about it. However, if a big machine in the ocean, offshore, it is often disconnected from the cloud. Also, for the security, you need to embed them, edge solution. Therefore, if Elena from the GCO is also at the Rise of AI, perhaps you can exchange with her. And also one company, Neuland AI, they try to embed domain knowledge and enterprise knowledge in combination of the traditional technology with the new technology. Like also, I think Gudong is here. You also, your team is also, S-team is also working on this part, right? Yeah. And the industry knowledge, why ontology and the corporate knowledge graph, and with RAG and prompt engineering with context learning, they are smartly developed this kind of agent architecture in order to make the application compliant and also support the industry applications. Now, very quick, because many people ask me, Dr. Xu, do we need a chief AI officer? Do we need a central AI team? They are useless. But I told them, if you say they are useless because you don't know what is needed for a central AI team, a central AI team had at least 3 important tasks, and this is needed for the company. One is the strategic part, right? And also investment decisions and the partnership, make-buy decisions. The second one, very important, build up the AI stack, build up the development life cycle, essential in order to make sure the application development will be successful. And the third one, most people don't know that the third one is important, make sure that the application will be successful, scalable. You need a small product team, work with the business unit in order to make, and with these 3 pillars, I think the chance to be successful is much bigger than before. And I know many of my friends, they are in the board, the supervisor board, want to be board. And as a board member, you have to do risk management for yourself, for the company, for the board member. These are the 6 components which you need if you become a board member, or if your board will really have the AI governance. If you want to build AI applications, you need AI governance in the board and supervised board. Make a picture. And in the future, we talk about AI software, AI hardware, but in the future, AI will be part of our body. Because in the future, AI will become the sensor in our bones if we have artificial knees, artificial hip, and artificial liver. And in the future, I think in the near future, AI will be part of them. This means AI will emerging and unify with our human body. I stop here, hand over to the exciting part of Patrick.
Fei. That's kind of a great starting point, because agents, when you talk about agents, we had them in sci-fi in the 80s. So when you think of Neuromancer, which talked about what happens when a machine and a human intersect, right? In that book, we already had the idea of agents encapsulated, and everybody was thinking about it in the cyberpunk era of the 80s and 90s. So why is everybody talking about agents this year? Because in the past we had chatbots, and chatbots are really kind of interns that are waiting for you to give them instructions. And agents give us the option to actually get work done, which is kind of valuable in the enterprise. Why does it work now? Because, I mean, the baseline is we now have systems in AI that have common sense. That's kind of the big unlock. We have instruction following that works really well. And one of the biggest unlocks for this year is actually was initially R1 by DeepSeek, because it was so incredibly cheap and so incredibly good. I'm going to show you some numbers on that. And that forced the hand of OpenAI to release O3 Mini, which was quite competitive with them, and now O4 Mini. And I think we are starting to see a changing perspective on trust. Let me explain what I mean by that in a second. So agents, as they exist today, or as you can build them today, mostly work for swivel chair applications, where you have to handle multiple user interfaces in the enterprise, where there are no APIs, or the APIs are not not well documented, and all the robotic process automation graveyards are also kind of a good pick for things. So things that you couldn't automate before, you may be able to automate them now. And the outsourcing playbook is actually applicable for agents. So if you don't know anything about AI, just think about your business process. Think about it. How would you outsource it to a business process outsourcer? Write in SOPs, standard operating procedure. So that's the process you want to do. Define the barriers, define the escalation paths, define the service level agreements, and expect 80/20. That's a great paper from SAP researchers that essentially showed the current models, even in the simplest question of SQL, text to SQL, they have a really high precision. So we're talking about 99 to 100% precision on being able to correctly predict, given an SQL structure, given your human text, natural language, what kind of SQL query you want to write, but only, when you look on the recall, only on around 80% on the tasks. So you need to be able to identify tasks that are business processes where you say, okay, I'm fine if I can only outsource 80% of these tasks, the 80 easy percent, of course, right? And I want to give you a demo how that looks. So what you see here, it's Gmail, because it's easier to integrate than Outlook most of the time. if I'm sending an email to one of my agents that I've built, where I say, okay, please order an iPad mini, or in this case, order 2 iPad minis in space gray with 256 gigabytes, and they just write it as free text, and I can write as much crap as I want into that email, then essentially you can build an agent that receives these emails, that checks for these emails continuously. Whenever they find a new email, they try to understand what's going on there. They're trying to extract from that email in a structured form what is the thing that the colleague is actually ordering, checking in an internal database, does this person have the budget, does they have the authority to process the order, check what kind of tasks do they have available, and then when they see, okay, I understand the task, I've seen the task in the past, I'm allowed to do that, then they can log into a ServiceNow portal, that's kind of an enterprise application, and reason about how to get this job done. So what you see here is nothing that I'm doing, and this is also not a lot of AI building work. All I'm doing is I'm giving the DOM tree, so the HTML content of the website, of that enterprise application, I'm handing it over to a large language model and asking, where should I click? And they can do that out of the box. And even the problems when they can't scroll down, they have to scroll down to actually find the right checkbox. They're going to find it. Now they have to figure out, so the space gray is already selected, 256 gigabyte. Now they have to adjust the quantity. And they managed to do that. And now it has to click order now. And after it clicked order now, it has to understand it's actually done with the job, right? Let's see. It's in real time, that's slow. But I sped up the loading time of ServiceNow. And then, of course, it sends an email telling you, okay, I processed that. And of course, you can create a lot of more stuff about it. But the question is, we all know LLMs hallucinate, they do stuff. Do they actually work, right? And we had the first agent ideas since April 2023. But the answer is, no, they didn't work. So human 99% quality, let's say, GPT-4o in summer of last year, 67%, Claude Sonnet, 75%, you cannot roll it out. That's not doable, right? DeepSeek R1, 87% and 10 times cheaper, which is interesting, right? O4 Mini, 98%. And it's getting even better. But before thinking about getting better, what you have to think about, companies know how to manage risk. They know how to deal with manufacturing defects. In the manufacturing industry, we have the Six Sigma thing from the 80s and 90s, and you can apply that as well. And you can look, okay, at 99.38%, we're going to be in a level where we say, okay, the agents don't get everything right, but my humans don't get everything right either. I can write the benchmarks. And if I give to a system a standard operating procedure, and I just give them a standard operating procedure, I don't do any programming in a traditional sense. What you see here is DeepSeek goes up to 98%, and as O4 Mini goes roughly up to 99.3%. So it's very close in the likelihood for easy tasks today, without a lot of scaffolding. And you can get at a higher level with more scaffolding, and you can actually start managing these things like you would manage other manufacturing processes. So all the internal business processes where people have to interact with a lot of systems, they can now be automated. And a last thing that I want to share, if you want to see an agent in action, a very simple one, just go to ChatGPT, use the O3 model, upload any picture, and ask it, where is that? What you see here is a picture. It didn't get any other information, and it told correctly it was Landwehr Kanal. It was something like 500 meters off. So that's quite impressive going through that thinking process. And I'm leaving it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Maybe you just stick here if there's a question from the audience for 30 seconds. Any question? There is one. Maybe Patrick, is it for Patrick or for Feiyu? Maybe you come to me because then the camera can see you in the live stream.
Okay, so large language models or foundation models, they have a lot of data for training, right?
Yes.
So they collected a lot of information from our past, but we won't collect it in the past. But we want to use them in the future to solve the problem. Do you see this contradiction between the past and the future? Thank you.
Yes, I mean, what these agentic systems need is essentially the past inputs, the past outputs of the process, ideally, if the process changed, the process description. And that's kind of the data source that you want to use on top of a model. And we start out with just a baseline model. You measure these metrics, and only at a later stage you go into can I use that data to fine-tune these models? But it's like, you don't start tuning a car before you have ever driven it, right? You first drive it, you figure out where it goes wrong, and then you need that data from your past interactions to actually make that car even faster.
And also, well, I can add, right? As I mentioned in the beginning, like Llama 4, you can have, with the open weight, you can easily do fine-tuning, and also you can have even 10 million of the context, right? You can use the past data to the fine-tuning on top of general purpose multimodal. I think for the industry, multimodal AI model is essential. On the other hand, you have the real-world data, the short-term data in context learning. This kind of combination make you take advantage of your past experience and also get the real-world information. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Patrick, Feiyu Xu. And I'm hoping you stick a bit around, and there is another announcement.
Yeah, next year I will check the answers to the questions from you.
That means she's also back next year on stage. We got you there.